I would guess that most of us have experienced the thrill of seeing a formerly painful process automated and streamlining our personal workflow. So I would believe most of us get the upside of automation. But now picture scaling it up and transforming automation into a competitive edge that permeates the entire organization. As automation has the power to provide quantifiable benefits through improved accuracy, better decision-making, risk reduction, cost savings, and I could go on. But as some of you have already experienced, perhaps to some degree, this is much easier said than done, because questions come up as soon as you start this, like what does this look like across an entire enterprise? How do we link technical automation to business outcomes? How do we track all automation efforts to decide which ones to amplify? And should our automation strategy start top down or perhaps bottom up or both? Well, these and many more are to be expected because I quote, "Nothing in the world is worth having or worth doing without effort, pain, or difficulty." It's motivating. I'm paraphrasing Theodore Roosevelt here to say that, yes, this is hard stuff, but not to the extent that you may think, so hang with me. How you tackle these challenges will depend on your business goals. Your approach will be unique to you and the needs of your organization. But there is guidance as well, and Worldwide Technology has identified 5 universal automation priorities for 2023, and these can help dispel any fear of taking this on, if not also give you a starting roadmap. Because it's all based on research that WWT continues to refine through work with organizations just like yours, all sizes, every location, you name it. Well, today we're diving into priority 2, invest in observability. Not sure if that works or not. Automating business processes requires support across multiple teams. And to understand which automation projects are most beneficial, we need to observe the entire tech stack. And we've got 2 experts from Worldwide Technology joining us today, Mike Cervasio, Global Practice Manager for AI Ops, and Kevin Wald, Principal for Management Consulting. I'm your moderator, Rob Boyd, and I thank you for joining us as we navigate the realities of enterprise-wide automation at scale. Welcome. This is WWT Presents Research, accelerating results through the wisdom and the achievements of those who came before us. Guys, it's very good to have both of you here on our latest WWT research, WWT reports on research. And Mike, we've had you on here before, but just in case anybody has not had a chance to experience your lovely, talented ways, I wonder if you could introduce what you do, and then we'll jump to Kevin.
Love to be back. Mike Cervasio, I'm the Global Practice Manager for AI Ops. So everything involving monitoring, observability, getting to the root cause via automation, and also getting that critical user journey mapped end to end for digital customer experience and employee digital experience.
Now, would you say you're more on the technical side perhaps than Kevin, or in most general situations, you're a pretty technical person, correct?
Yeah, my background, I don't want to say how many decades, but it's all around technology services and performance engineering and monitoring.
Yeah, perfect. Okay, well, good. Definitely got some questions for you on that. And Kevin, welcome. It's good to get to meet you. I wonder if you could tell us, what's your background? What do you do for WWT? How long you've been there? Kind of what's your passion, your background, and anything else important we need to understand?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm a principal in the management consulting group here at Worldwide Technology. My role is involved with leading consulting teams, and that covers everything from helping customers scope and define opportunities. And if they wish to proceed with that, then I'll help create the consulting team and ultimately lead that team to make sure that we're kind of aligned to the customer expectations. And my focus area is the data technology space, which is pretty broad, but projects can range from everywhere from creating an AI model to achieve a particular business outcome, building a data platform in the cloud, or even creating an IT enterprise monitoring strategy. So themes of automation run through all of those, and excited to share some of the kind of firsthand learnings from working with customers on a daily basis from that.
Well, and that's exactly where I'd like to go first, since we've already got the microphone open with you. You've had a number of really big projects across your career, but specifically been working on some. As you looked at this report on automation and not having authored it yourself, it comes from your company, but I'm just kind of curious, anything that jumped out at you in preparation for our chat today and how that reflected your experience with customers?
Yeah, no, it's something that I think a lot of the points resonated. When it comes to dealing with customers, we're not just, rarely do I have a project where it's just automation for the sake of automation. It's always,
Right.
we're trying to achieve a particular business outcome. And then automation is one of the tools, in the shed there that we use to achieve that outcome, often paired with, process improvement, new technology and data solutions, but automation increasingly becoming a vital piece of any solution.
Yeah, and I'm glad you brought that up because I think that is one clear point that's made throughout the report, and it certainly matches well with what I understand WWT is always focused on, which is none of the technology that any of us are working with is designed to be just for the sake of itself. It's designed to tie to a business outcome. And as easy as that is to say, I think it's a lot harder to do because, as you guys both know, those are the details. That's in the weeds where that kind of stuff needs to happen. So we're talking about observability. It's the second priority on the report. We've done another show and got another one coming out on top down. We've got another one just behind this on grassroots automation. But for observability, Mike, I'm curious, observability obviously implies, well, visibility. I wonder how you would define it as its importance in the equation of doing automation in a positive manner.
Yeah, absolutely. So the way we define observability worldwide is it's a superset of monitoring, where monitoring is, more static, gives you current states and is more, I would call it more reactive. Something happens, an alert's triggered, then there's action. So there's already a business disruption. Observability is more proactive. It could tell you the inner states of all your systems and give you those early indicators and parse through all that noise to get to actionable insights that could be, triggered early in the troubleshooting process. So it's changing the mindset of and the culture of the support teams to not just rely on an alert, but every day part of their daily process is go to that first pane of glass, look for leading indicators, the deviations in performance and your SLOs, and act upon them before they become a business disruption.
Yeah, no, that's something, I'm thinking about the customer working with currently, single pane of glass was a big objective for them, moving from, I would say, observing or metrics in a very siloed fashion across different groups to actually pulling that together to a single pane of glass where you can take action. So that's how, kind of we were thinking about it at one of the customers working with currently.
Yeah, and so here's the thing. I think the way it's laid out in this report, and there's a consistent layout to all the reports on other subjects, and I like that because it makes it easy to quickly get into them and understand. But this is somewhat in an order. So if you have top-down strategy as being important to understand what that does as priority 1, and then priority 3, covered on a different show as well, is about grassroots and understanding the importance of input from the people who are doing things that may be perceiving bottlenecks or going through things that could be nominated for a potential part of the process. All of it is about kind of building a foundation for success around automation before you're actually executing on the automation. And observability, the principles I'm seeing, and Mike, you're nodding your head, seem to be about saying, make sure you have certain things in place. You may already have them, so it's not saying that everybody's missing this. It's not like these are big, different tools that are really specific to automation. They're not. They're specific to success in networking and success in IT. But Mike, observability becomes foundational to make sure that you've got the ability to even begin to be ready to do these things correctly, whether it's measuring, knowing that it's going to be successful, perceiving, roadblocks ahead of time. What are your thoughts on that?
Automation is the accelerant for AI ops maturity, observability. But to really see the full dividends of your automation strategy and your automation implementation is to ensure you've got the visibility into the data. So making sure you've got the observability by design, I would call it, because how else can you measure the success of your automation implementations and to get the right performance data and accurate data out of it? So observability is definitely one of the foundational pillars in the automation pyramid.
Well, before we get into getting started, and I'll ask you a few questions about tool sets and different things that kind of play in this space. They're important, especially since people may recognize things they're already doing. No sense in redoing them again. But just to kind of seal off on the importance of observability, pulling from the report, there are risks that are mentioned, and this is one of those repeating sections in every report. If you're not putting observation as important to your process for doing scalable automation, you're going to have an inability to determine the success of the automation. You're going to be, you potentially are working on perceived versus real bottlenecks. You may not be working on the thing you think you're working on, or it may not be the most important. You're not achieving certainly the performance levels, and there's missed opportunities due to, as you mentioned, lack of data accuracy, perhaps, if you're not really paying attention to how you're gathering that and how it's going to work in. And then how do you prioritize if you don't have that stuff in place? Those are all listed as risks in here. But when it comes to getting started, the very first thing that's mentioned is defining measurable objectives. Kevin, you kind of hinted at this, that it's important for your clients. They consistently are saying, we need to be able to say, what does success look like here? But I'm curious if you have any insight for us on how are they defining measurable objectives and anything you've experienced there.
Start by saying it's not easy sometimes to measure. If you come in, depending on where you're at, it's not a simple task to be able to set up the data architecture right behind that so that you do have accurate data. And so there's plenty of times where, hey, getting started is, let's just be able to measure it at all, right? We don't even have a baseline to compare against. Of course, the goal then is to get that to a point where, you've got a view into that so you can say in a quantitative way, right, this is driving impact. If you're looking at, say, the incident life cycle from alert to closure, right? If you want to be able to manage that effectively, being able to measure kind of your journey across that gives you a lot more power to do so. But it's not easy. It's not easy to get started. And we've had plenty of times that takes quite a bit of effort just to get that type of measurement system in place.
One prime example with many of our customers is we try to map out that event to incident persona. Like Kevin said, from inception to closure. And the reason we map that out is we want to create a library of commonly occurring incidents. And what does the typical L1, L2 support person do? Let's start easy. What's the first 2 or 3 steps they do when they realize there's a performance issue, an application issue, a customer experience issue? And from getting that data from observability tools, that'll help create scripted investigations. Let's make the lift a lot easier for the support personnel, automate what's easy and do it the right way so they can then focus on attacking the fault domain. So through a scripted investigation with automation, it's already pointing them to the fault domain, and they can engage the database team, the network team, to attack it earlier. And then also getting more mature when you identify the known root cause, you can then start to implement a runbook automation, self-healing automation.
Well, Mike, pushing back on you a little bit, I feel like you said that it's important to, maybe be aware of the things that are easier to do and automate those things first. And I agree with low-hanging fruit. I don't think that's bad, as long as it matches up with the business objectives that have been predefined, so that you're not simply automating for the sake of automation, which I know Kevin also said that's not what my clients want to do. But that implies that you know what those are, right?
Yeah. Well, one of the most important things we do, and we do this through our automation and AI ops workshops, sometimes they're combined or sometimes they're done separate, is to understand the business imperatives. What are the objectives? What are some of the challenges they're facing? What does success look like? What's their North Star? But also starting with a strategy and a blueprint before you start to pour the foundation. And if they have a strategy, we want to act as a trusted advisor where we could have input into it. If they don't have a strategy, we could definitely help them create one, because you're right. You want to get the low hanging fruit and start to crawl before you walk, before you run.
Yeah.
But let's make sure we're heading to the same North Star, and we catch a deviation from that roadmap early and we get back on track.
Kevin, you were talking about measurable objectives in terms of your clients saying, maybe improving response times and understanding the gap there. I would assume, do I understand correctly, the notion of is we want to measure this now so that as we put things into place, we know how much we've been able to then improve, and we can measure that improvement gap. Is that what you see your clients doing as well, Kevin?
Yeah, well, yes, that's the ideal state. I would say being able to have a very scientific approach, right? We want to measure, so something changed, right, and it's X% better. Maybe I'll take this example in a different way for the sake of, hey, what if it is hard to measure? And like going to the a business objective of we want to be proactive, moving from reactive. And part of that, then translating that down, would be like, well, if our operators spend less time troubleshooting to resolve an issue and more time being able to do things like root cause analysis and more strategic analysis, now we're thinking of ways to be proactive instead of just firefighting. And so that's where we recently did some automation around, hey, here's an activity. It takes an operator usually about 15 minutes to try to troubleshoot and restart this device. Well, we can do this in an automated way with a script. And so we built that script that was saving about 15 minutes per device outage. And often when these would go out, they go out in bunches. So this is an example. Now you're getting hours back to your operators, and we can shift from firefighting, right, to now we might be able to take on some more strategic, kind of analysis to look at.
Well, it's funny because you mentioned that to me is also the dream, which is the notion of because it feels like we can fill every hour of our day in most operations with the troubleshooting and the firefighting. It's hard to get the top, which one reason we say this is why it's important to top down in priority one, which is the fact that if you're ever going to get on top of this and continue to excel from a competitive standpoint, you're going to have to stop and sharpen the saw. And figure out how you're doing these things better. And I don't think that's easy to do. I think it requires good leadership to help you pull this off so that these things can be put into place, but that's also in the report. Moving on to tools, Mike, I want to come over to you on this one. AI Ops is certainly a set of tools found in that area. But when it comes to automation and specifically observability, since that's our topic, what do you see as being good tools that maybe even customers already have that should be in consideration here?
Yeah. And I want to start by saying, the focus of AI ops, it's a discipline. It's not a tool or ecosystem of tools.
So I was trying to word that carefully because I knew you were going to get on me for that. And then please do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it involves people, process, and I'll throw in culture. And yes, there are tools and technology involved. So people and process, right? So one of my customers installed all the latest and greatest tools. However, they were still in a reactive mindset. There were still long outages and not knowing the root cause. And one of the things we could do is help them get from reactive to proactive. And it's more in the skills and education of the people and the processes. Let's go through and map out in swim lanes your event incident processes. Let's now work backwards. Let's look at your ServiceNow tickets for the last 3 months, 6 months, work backwards, see which tool and how early it triggered, and then work from that process. And then the culture piece, that's like, shifting from being a martyr to working smarter, meaning
from martyr to smarter.
Everyone has their own it rhymes.
Yeah.
Rather than working from their silo of, the network team has their tools, the security team has their tools, the application and SRE team has their tools. Let's be open and collaborate, and not to take away their tools, but our mentality is to let's maximize the investment you've already made and make it work better together through integration, correlation, and automation.
Yeah.
So we like to approach it from a tools agnostic perspective, but we are polytheistic where we have opinions. And we kick the tires on a bunch of OEM partners in the ATC every single day, plus our experience. So we do have opinions on what works well, what integrates with what's a marketware versus reality, and what are some blind spots and tools. So some of the tools, like I said, we like to lead with people, process, culture, but going down to our go-to-market tier one tools that I've seen is, from a data streaming, creating a data streaming observability pipeline. So kind of build plumbing of your house with the right material so it doesn't leak, and you hopefully only do it once. That plumbing can then ingest all your telemetry information from your observability tools. And the tools used in that middle piece, that pipeline piece, are things like Cribble, Confluence, Kafka, NiFi. We've got a great data streaming practice that can help customers implement that pipeline and do it once and do it right. And then,
Yeah.
and then do some enablement training. And then on the event correlation platform side, the leaders in the market are Big Panda and Mooksoft. We see a lot more movement with Big Panda. We're actually eating our own cooking in the WWT.com platform, where, like many customers, they had a ton of different tools all acting in their own silos. So bringing them together, like with a data streaming pipeline, and bringing in a Big Panda to reduce the noise by doing event correlation and tying automated root cause analysis. And most importantly, integrating that with automation. In the case of our own backyard, it's with Ansible playbooks.
Gotcha. And so I'm curious here too, and Kevin, if this has come up with you guys, but these tools need to have visibility or observability. I'm using those interchangeably, and Mike defined them for me differently, but either way, observability tools, we'll stick with that. They need to be able to see what's happening both at the on-premises level as well as at the cloud, and everything in between. Are your clients taking that kind of thing into consideration as they look at their tool sets and kind of try to refine what they're doing there?
Absolutely. And that's essentially part of the problem you're trying to solve. Is we want to have all these data sources, be it on-prem or in the cloud, right? Because most of our customers are in both areas for sure, and bring that into a single pane of glass or a way to analyze that. And so kind of building on Mike's answer, I mean, I think, people, process, culture, to me, data, right, is underpinning all of that. That's like an essential thing. That's something when it comes to the AI ops arena, I would say, businesses have traditionally, especially on the business side, invested heavily in data in recent decades, right? To build out data warehouses, data lakes, data streaming capabilities. On the IT side, I would say that's trending a little bit. And now that's something with AI ops. And that's a big thing working with customers is let's make those same type of investments in the data foundation so that you have those capabilities to be able to analyze across all these levels. So that, to me, that's kind of the big change is this, increasing your data maturity when it comes to observability and IT, analytics.
That's a great point, because data is growing faster than your budget. And I've read an IDC report that by 2025, data volume is going to increase by 250%. So just think about all that data that has to be extracted to get information and value out of it.
Yeah.
The only way to do that is with good analytic tools and observability tools. Because just think of our support personnel, like I said, our L1, L2 folks, even level 3, they have to pour through mountains of data and be multilingual in probably dozens of observability tools. A lot of companies have too many tools.
Yeah.
They have to be knowledgeable across that whole spectrum. We want to make it easier and integrate and correlate that and put it in plain English.
Yeah.
It's you don't have to know 15 different tools, and it's good also for upskilling and ramp up time of new personnel. Let's start right here. Explainable English. What's going on?
You just made the point
What's
for automation. Yeah. You make that point for automation, which is that you don't want your people dropping things through the cracks because they're having to manage different tools. We want to remove that human interface between there, because we talk about all the different places you could gather data. The collection is one thing. Then there comes the normalization, or the ability to compare the data so that you can accurately say, was that a percentage increase or decrease? Is that good or bad? Well, that depends on your ability to compare from one point in time to another across something that is comparable, and that you're not trying to do apples and oranges and then relying on humans to then say, I think that's bad. We want to certainly get past that. I want to move on to our kind of a third section here about measures of success and whether or not, how do you know you're on track? And the report, it specifically says that you want to monitor and track the performance of your applications and workloads, and they need to work the same way regardless of where the application or the workload is deployed. And so this becomes an ongoing thing because none of these are static environments. Everything is constantly in a state of change. How successful, Kevin, are you seeing in terms of documentation?
It depends. And frankly, I'm a little biased because usually the customers we're working with don't have a perfect, system, because otherwise they wouldn't need consultants to come help
Good
them.
point.
But, like a CMDB maturity, that's always challenging, right? And there's plenty of cases where, and that's like a key piece of, documentation. I'll use that term loosely. that supports this type of observability and analytics. So to me, it's always kind of a journey. A lot of customers are looking to mature this over time, and it's about kind of finding ways to work without perfect information.
When we talk about documenting dependencies, I don't know, Mike, can you share anything about what that looks like? Because this isn't a paper document necessarily. Do your tools help with the documentation, or is this something you think in your mind needs to be extracted from the tools for a more independent kind of reference, so to speak?
A lot of the leading observability tools, have application dependency mapping. That's fine and dandy, but you really need kind of services mapping, and some of them do have that capability, like a real time topology mesh, understanding where all your CIs are and what information is flowing from them. So it's the tools help enrich a CMDB, because that's a common challenge. Everyone complains of an inaccurate CMDB because they're not updated on a regular basis with automation. So there's definitely tools that can help feed it and keep it enriched. Because, ServiceNow and others have some good, discovery tools to help build that map of all your CIs and the interdependencies. And, it was good to see a lot of the modern observability tools, whether it's Dynatrace, AppDynamics, Datadog, Big Panda, they all have those built in. And it's good to see when you're troubleshooting, because a lot of times you don't realize a critical user journey traverses multiple applications, even the good old mainframe, and on-prem, off-prem hybrid. So just because you have the infrastructure monitored, the application stack monitored, the network monitored, you could still be missing the transaction journey of either a customer or an employee, and find out where they start to fall off being happy and satisfied in a healthy journey. So the instrumentation of those critical user journeys is a great first step versus onboarding app by app into an observability platform.
It's funny because I had this flashback to how far we've come from just focusing on connectivity and ping and trace route, and these being all we pretty much had to do with. And, and it was companies like you just mentioned that have innovated in this space saying, if we can't see the entire stack and we can see where things are trending so that you can get on top of them before a client or a customer, someone is aware of an issue, then that's not good observability. And it's not good monitoring, working with your tool sets. These are complex interactions that are happening, across a lot of different environments. And so this isn't simple and it's not turnkey, but at the same time, it's so important. And I don't want to overemphasize the complexity here. I want to switch up, talk a little bit about how WWT helps people get started on this journey. Kevin, from your personal experience, I assume you're aware of how do people at the very beginning, when they're not sure, even maybe the questions to ask, how do they generally engage with you guys, and what kind of resources do you see being provided to help accelerate that?
Yeah, and we typically engage through, it could be a workshop, it could be just some discussions, and that would be where I could, or one of my peers would come in to try to understand, really the challenge you're trying to solve, and ultimately, our consulting services here, we kind of design an outcome and kind of team model that will work for your needs. And customers are at different stages of maturity, right? It could be, hey, square one, I don't know how to get started, and we can sit in and say, great, let's develop a strategy and a plan. Other folks may already have a strategy in place, but hey, we're having a hard time getting it off the ground, right? We need some help to accelerate that. We could certainly come in at that point. And then we even have folks that are, okay, we're moving pretty fast. How do we get to the cutting edge, right? What's the next step forward? And that's when you maybe getting more into advanced analytics and things like that, where we can also jump in. So, part of the role here is to kind of figure out where you're at and where you want to go.
Yeah. So Mike, I want to get your reflections on this as well. If you could remember when things start, but I'm also kind of curious about, do these automation principles, the tools, the things we talk about, do they vary much in terms of company size or organization size? In the type of activities they're going in. Obviously, we're talking about anybody that's working with IT. So but that could be anybody. That still could be a landscaping service or something to that degree. But Mike, what do you generally recommend in terms of getting started and how to engage with you guys?
Yeah. So typically our first engagement with a customer, we walk through our methodology and approach, and then we show them a demo. So we leverage Worldwide's Advanced Technology Center, which is a huge differentiator for us. So we've got active AI ops demo labs. So we could show them the art of the possible, whet their appetite. And then what's the best next step is a workshop, like Kevin mentioned. Like for AI ops, we've got a no-cost 3-hour AI ops workshop to dive into those areas and, peel back the onion. What does success look like? What are your strategic imperatives? And what are your challenges? So that's a great first step. And usually the outcome is, besides a completed mural board, we use an interactive mural board for it, and a prescriptive roadmap of next steps. Probably the two most common ones I see is it could lead to a tools rationalization assessment.
Okay.
And or a showcase MVP, minimally viable product. Start small with maybe a few user journeys, instrument that from stem to stern, and show them the pre, during, and post. Like, let's measure your mean time to identify and isolate, mean time to action, mean time to resolution, and also finding the root cause. In the current environment, let's implement these critical user journeys, and let's measure that. How much did the needle move?
Yeah.
And in most cases, it moves a lot, and it helps build that internal marketing and culture to promote it and rinse and repeat. So those are some of the typical ways we start. They'll ask us that. They'll see our beautiful little, AI ops maturity curve or automation maturity curve. It's like, yeah, I'm going to start at level 5.
Yeah.
I'm going to run.
Yeah.
Really, we have to say, well, let's start
Set
with the
reasonable
core basics.
expectations.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's first understand where you're at, and then we'll work with where you're at to get to the point of next one, the point of next two. Start to get from firefighting, chaos, reactive to proactive, and then start to even look at some predictive, prescriptive capabilities with automation.
Well, and I love what both of you are saying there, but what you're also saying, I don't think it was said out loud, but just to make sure I know it's implied, you're moving at the pace the customer needs to, wants to, is able to, I would assume. And so the idea is you're very much working with them to set up, well, this is what we recommend. We can do as little bit of this or a lot of this or none of this, whatever it may be. Let's take the next, educated step based on what we know now. And then as we continue to share information, we move it forward. Well, guys, thank you, by the way, for taking time out from your busy schedules to come kind of give your reflections on this topic of observability. Mike, Kevin, appreciate you both.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Automation at scale can be intimidating. It forces us to make hard database decisions, to re-examine our work. It requires us to stay disciplined about organizational goals while also embracing experimentation. And as you know, there's no playbook for anything around enterprise-wide automation, but these 5 priorities are significant inroads on your automation journey, and each can be adopted over time. Well, the entire research paper on automation priorities is worth a read. In addition to today's show, we have a few other deep dives already out for these priorities available to watch right now. Priority 1, covering top-down automation.
And if anything that we've learned over the past couple of years with supply chain is top of mind, it's around how do you do it faster, quicker, and then you show up better for the customer. And the only way you solve for that, in my view, is around how automation can help our team and our customers be more connected. How do we make that data rich in such a way that automation really becomes the springboard of the app that helps us deliver on that outcome?
A lot of our customers have got large on-prem footprints and manual processes. So my role really is to take our automation portfolio across the board and offer it to our customers to help them build automation teams, center of excellences, as well as capabilities to drive internal reduction of manual labor and cost. So we're really helping companies build that internal muscle memory to be able to execute on automation in a scalable manner, going from one group to the other. And again, as I mentioned, over the last couple of years, as economic and monetary conditions have tightened up, that has become a bigger and bigger theme.
And priority 3, scale grassroots efforts.
See folks that are working on automating things to make their own jobs easier. And really that's what we define as grassroots. It's the things that are already taking place. And we don't want to squash those things. We want to really kind of the opposite. We want to encourage and foster those things and take advantage of those skill sets and those desires to automate put some emphasis behind them.
One of the things that was very important to me and the rest of the team was, how do you build momentum? And that's really when I think about grassroots, it's really about that building of momentum. So how do you not try to solve the big things and wait for the big things, but how do you incrementally identify where you can build that momentum?
Simply knowing about the automation occurring organically in your organization, that's a win. So too is observing all the data points that impact the end user experience. If it takes longer to secure executive sponsorship, that's okay. If it takes a while to evolve how employees work, that's okay too. These priorities are in this particular order because this is what the research has revealed. One-off automation doesn't add up to an automated enterprise. So take the time to get the right people, the right processes, and the right technology in place. So automation at scale requires a big shift for most of us, but the more your organization shifts, the easier it becomes. So whatever roads your automation journey takes you down, I guarantee that you'll discover new and exciting opportunities across your enterprise. Don't forget to read the paper. If I didn't mention that already, don't hesitate to reach out and ask how WWT can help. They have a lot of expertise in this domain, and there's nothing better than the boost you can get from working with experts. Thank you for watching.